And we're going to jump right into the Q&A now because we have so much to talk about. So, Pastor Jonathan, thank you for this teaching. I mean, we had a great conversation last night. I got to tell you, we've got quite a list of questions lined up here already. So, this is going to be good. And the first one, it's a doozy. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, what's your favorite birthday cake flavor?
Oh, man. I'm not a major cake guy. I think I like rice pudding and custards and things like that. So
Okay.
often in my family, they get that for my birthday.
There you go. There you go. A little bit of a turn. I was going to say I wouldn't put you as a cake person too.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't mind it, but like chocolate cake, I know a lot of people, Shelly loves chocolate cake.
Yeah.
It's okay.
There you go. It's a reason to have ice cream, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay, so this question from Rosalie, I think just a good early question for us, just to clarify, making that connection between running on empty tank and control. And so just connecting the dots, maybe she was still just struggling to see like what is the control, how does that influence us running on empty?
Yeah, as we're just chatting in the text, you'll notice in Scripture that the things we do have control over, the self-control that we have, it actually adds fuel to our tank. The more we exercise self-control, it actually adds to our tank. And the more we try to control things that are outside our controllable, and every time you pray about a situation that you can't control, that is you surrendering control to Him. That is you giving Him the wheel. So I'd encourage you to keep doing that. That actually, because the more you try to make it happen, that actually causes us to lose that energy and lower our tank.
There you go. So I hope that helped you, Rosalie. Let's keep rolling.
Yep.
Really, just a bit of a Bible nerd question, which I'm always excited about. What translation are you using for Matthew 6:14 and 15?
Yeah, the Message.
The Message.
Yeah,
there
I
you
use
go.
the Message paraphrase for that.
That's a great version for putting stuff into everyday language.
Sometimes it's a nice fresh take on a common portion of Scripture. Maybe we've heard it in a different version many, many times, and the Message just kind of teases it out. And sometimes I feel a little bit more gritty, which I really like.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're so familiar we don't hear the grittiness or the gutsiness of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Melissa Nicole, how do we let go of something that we, or like how does someone let go of something that they can't control?
Yeah, Melissa Nicole, this is a big question with a answer that I wish was simpler in this regard. It actually is fairly simple. It just requires multiple touch points.
Right.
There's very few moments that we come to Jesus and we surrender and we truly give Him it, and that's it, and it's done.
Right.
It's like coming with our lives, Melissa Nicole. When we come to Jesus, not only are we instantaneously changed, we are made new creatures in Christ Jesus, but we are also, it's called sanctification. And what it means is we enter into a process of transformation.
Right.
And it's going to take time. So there's a daily surrender. There's a daily surrender. And when you're trying to let go of something that you're trying to control, it almost is like you daily coming to Jesus and say, Jesus, like let's say I have children. Daily coming to Jesus, if I'm trying to control the outcomes of their lives and who they are and their decisions, I know I could easily alienate them. I have to almost daily come and say, God, you know better than I do. You love them better than I do.
Right.
You love them deeper than I do. You are the one that is benevolently in control, and I trust you, and I give you my children again. And that way I can let them be themselves instead of trying to make them more like me or what I think I want or what my friends' kids look like. So it really does come down to the discipline of every time you're tempted to take the wheel again, it's kind of like, okay, Jesus, it's yours.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that is one, even last night, that was kind of what I was walking away processing the most, is that this is not a one and done.
No.
This is a daily grind, a slow grow. You got to be patient to see some of the effects of this.
And the beauty is, though, Matt, like you do that enough over time, you don't have to keep doing it. Because there is a sense of like, I've given God this area of my life, and I really have. I'm trusting his leadership in it. And here's how you know you have. You're obeying what he says about that area of your life.
Wow, okay.
So when we choose not to obey things that God says about, our sexuality, our relationships, our finances and everything, we really don't trust him in those areas. And when we do, we're exhibiting trust. And that's really an indication that we are letting go of control.
Right.
And we're allowing him to be in control.
Wow, that's a great indicator. Going back to the illustration at the beginning, if you're wondering if your indicator light is on, if you're taking control or not,
Right.
Are you obeying?
Right.
Man, that's good. Okay, Heather's asking, any advice for people who know we can't control everything, but are expected to by others, like coworkers, family members, and friends? Part of my job is the expectation from others that I'm in control of everything.
Well, Heather, you must be a leader in some capacity or another. And this is why, too, I have a lot of grace for politicians and other people that lead.
Right.
I don't agree with them all. I really don't. And, I just have grace because I do know this. It's a no-win job. It's just a no-win job. You're going to win with some, you're going to lose with others. And so I recognize it's not easy. And everybody has agendas and everything else. But here's what you need to do, Heather, in those moments. Pastor Keith has taught this many times. I've probably quoted him many times in this message because he's been such a big part of forming my theology and heart around this as I sat under his teaching for years. But in those moments, Heather, do the right thing.
Right.
Not what the squeaky wheel is saying, not the expectations. What does Jesus expect of you in this moment? And really elevating, pleasing him over pleasing others.
Right.
Because the pleasing others is like this big hole. There's never enough. Never enough. But pleasing Jesus is just, God, what do you expect of me in these moments? And then you have to release control of the others. This does mean, though, Heather, and you're probably a people person asking this question, because I'm wired like you are that way. This does mean that, not everyone's going to love you all the time.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be happy with you all the time. And this is really me and all the people. Listen, make Jesus the top person in your life.
Right.
If you find yourself in him and you hear that affirmation of the Spirit, it gives you the strength to say, listen, I don't like it. I want everyone to love me, but if Jesus does principally, I'll be okay.
Right. That's so good. If I had one nugget that was really sticking to me today, it would be the take responsibility, don't take control.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a summary idea of what you're saying there.
That's very good.
We can still take responsibility of our actions, and well, I'm sure there's another couple questions that are related to that. I just wanted to point out, Jamila, man, you've been just really contributing to the chat room today, but you had a great little quote here. Pressing the anxiety button is almost like pressing the snooze button. It can cause you some trouble.
Well, that is really good, man. We got to remember that one for a future sermon. Pastor Keith, if you're listening, write that down. We got to get that. Pastor Jessica, write that down.
There you go. Rosalie is saying, what are signs, other than being judgmental, that you are running on empty?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, judgmental, being unforgiving. And forgiveness is a really big topic, and it's really hard. And we have great teachings in our archives about it, but being unforgiving, being critical. I think in this era right now, that's why I don't think it's a stretch to say, I think our culture, our society, our world, and all of us are running a little low. I've never heard the world more critical than it is right now.
Absolutely.
And being brittle, being more brittle. And, I think Jesus had this incredible ability with people and situations and moments precisely because he retreated to be with the Father and pray and get refueled in those moments so he could give out of his overflow as opposed to responding out of our emptiness, which, again, we're going to start to see everything as a nail and every person as a nail when we get into that position.
Totally good. I was joking at Roseanne, who was creating some of those word mashups. Brittle and critical. Britical is something
I like it. I like it. That
Dan-
sounds like your dad, Matt. Pastor Keith always creates these new words. That's a good one for him.
Yeah, sure it is. Dan J is saying, what are your thoughts on some of us who find safety in controlling our environments?
Yeah, great question, Dan. And every personality is a little different. Um, like, I like order. So my desk is always cleaned at the end of the day. Everything's in a place and everything, and it gives me a semblance of zen, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but not everyone in my family is wired that way. I'd say this, there are controllable elements, and of course, some order can bring peace to you. There's nothing wrong with those things. But I would say this: the controllable elements in our life, it's really an illusion.
Right.
It's an illusion that if you have a great RSP and that somehow you're going to have a great retirement, this could all go in moments.
Right.
Those things are all. So all I'd say is, as we build in, contingency plans in life,
Right,
as we build in controllable elements, and we're growing a bank account, or we're building a friend group, just always recognize this: that don't put your hooks in them as being your foundation,
Right.
because all of those things can disappoint. All of those things can evaporate in a
Absolutely.
moment. Our health can go like that. But when we're in Christ, nothing can pluck us from his hand. There is our true security. Our security is found in Jesus, not these things.
Yeah, and I can't, I'm totally resonating with you. I've gone through some of that mental exercise. If I lost this, how would it shake me?
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, recently, you have those crazy, little fears, what if this happened to my kid? And even yesterday, I was just thinking about my kids and what if something happened to them? And I was just thinking, how would I respond? Would I be able to handle it? And it's so telling when you have something that just grips your heart. And even going back to what I said earlier, taking responsibility versus taking control. Sometimes we can take responsibility and feel like, okay, we've got it. But we still have to open-handedly saying, we've done the best we can. And even our responsibility could be fruitless. It could not help us when we expect it to, right?
That's great, Matt, yeah.
But that's a huge challenge. Okay, Rosalie has another great one here. You can be on empty and not know it. If you don't know it, how do you edit yourself?
Well, listen, the people around you know it, Roseanne. And that's the thing. Honestly, we need community so badly.
Right.
Some of the moments where I'm on empty, I'm in denial. I'm just in denial. And I'll tell you why. A lot of that comes down to pride.
Wow.
I'm a very... I was raised to leave home at 18. I'm an independent thinker in many ways, and I don't like to have to rely on other people, and it's humbling too.
Totally.
But as I journey into community, which God calls us into, God calls into the community for a reason. Pastor Keith talked about this, about confession. You can't do that without community.
Right.
But those around me smell it on me right away.
Right.
They can tell. They can tell the brittleness. They can tell when I'm starting to run on empty. And trusting their voice, and it's so funny too. I've had my spouse Shelley, lovingly confront me about where I'm at, and at first I kind of go on the offense. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And even the way I say it betrays the fact that I'm not good.
Yeah, the defensiveness.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll put it back on her. Well, you don't sound very. It's amazing the games we play, right? But Roseanne, I think that's the power of community, because sometimes our gas gauge, if we're just relying on us to see it, sometimes we see what we want to see.
Right. That's good. Okay, this one is a good clarifier from Dove. I'm a little confused by this message. Are you saying that if we see injustice, we should do nothing? Just wait for a miracle? Doesn't God use people?
Yeah, 100%. I'm not sure where Dove's coming from, because I don't.
As opposed to taking control.
Well, yeah, okay, so there's a difference between taking control and taking action, right?
Right.
So I think in all of these things, let's go down. I talked about the Joseph level relationships, relationally Joseph minded, that you were tempted to take control of the situation. And I'm saying that's probably not the best way to approach it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't take action. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't connect with other people. Doesn't mean that if you might be on a good dating app or something. It doesn't mean that you can't take some steps to walk towards others in that.
Yeah.
It's the difference is when you're trying to take control, you're going to make it happen.
Right.
And when you're going to make it happen, you're going to take whatever shortcut you need to do to get to it,
Right.
even if it means disobeying God,
Right.
even if it means lowering a standard that is a minimum requirement of just being a follower of Jesus or something. So I would say this: an injustice in this world. Of course, around here we talk about 3 things you do with the injustice in this world, and we talk about look up, pray about it for sure.
Yeah.
Pray about it, but speak up and stand up. We have the ability to affect change in this world for good. So, no, it doesn't mean we don't take action, but I can't control the outcomes here.
Yeah.
And the moment I get invested at a control level, it will consume you.
Right. And that's why one of our 5 bold moves is doing justice the Jesus way. It's not just because we earnestly are hoping that justice exists and wait for a miracle. It's because we feel like we need to be doing those things, to listen up, to stand up, to pray up. We need to be doing our part in those things, right?
Right, exactly. It's not surrendering that we don't, we're waiting for God to do everything for us then. I can't control it, so I'm going to just, no, I mean, we have things, and this is where understanding the word is really helpful, because it always gives us handlebars that we keep walking towards, but the outcomes we can't control, and we leave those with God.
Yeah. Everything that God, 90% of, I don't know, some large percentage of what God does, his natural way of acting in the world is through partnership with us.
He chose that, and it was a Dove that had that question?
Yes, yeah.
Listen, shout out to you, Dove. That was an awesome question. Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. Jesus fan, sometimes we surrender our lives to God. Does that mean we put him in the driver's seat?
Yeah, I mean, that's an illustration that's been used by, I think, hundreds of pastors over the years.
Jesus take the wheel?
Yeah, Jesus take the wheel, right? Let go and let God. I think Bart, our chat room host, he was joking around about that yesterday. In a very real way. I mean, here's the thing, though. Following Jesus is not a substitute for good self-control. So we do have the wheel of our lives in that, God's not going to make you choose your response to others. He's asking you to choose the right response to others. So it's a real partnership in this. In the uncontrollable elements, of course, we're asking God, take the wheel and lead us in this path. But we have a part to do, and you talked about it in our last question there, Matt. Mm-hmm. God chooses to partner with humans, these flawed individuals that we all are, to do his work that his kingdom may come and his will may be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Right.
And I choose that. I don't wake up in the morning and say, God, unless you put gratitude in my heart, I'm not going to be grateful today. I need to take the wheel of my life and say, no, I'm looking for grateful things to do. This is the beautiful thing about what we're doing with Love Army, Matt.
Right.
It's partnering with God, but we are choosing the habit of being unignorably good to the world around us. And that is a habit that we get to choose.
Right, that's a practice.
So I don't know, it's as simple. Sometimes when we talk about give Jesus the wheel, now I think that's a great little saying. It's fun, it's helpful at times. But you have a part to do in this.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's letting go of control does not mean letting go of our responsibilities. Right?
Very good.
Yeah. Okay. Hillary and Daphne, love seeing you guys in the chat room.
Yeah, I love these guys.
How is it that when we're saying to others to let go, and we ourselves are still holding on? So I think it was a bit of a confession going on here in the chat, right?
Yeah, but I mean, this is the human journey, right? I think parents, especially, we struggle with this.
Right.
I'm a better coach to my sons sometimes than I am to myself, and it's so much I can want them to trust God in these areas or to do this, and I always say, listen, parents, it's not easy being a parent. But one of the greatest gifts you give your kids is by you living under the parental authority of God the Father in your life. And as you fashion your life around it, there is something so attractive about a faith that's lived, not just
Right.
declared.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's the challenge, and I'm so glad it's not like an expectation to get it right every day.
Exactly.
And it's the other end of the spectrum. It's not an expectation that that you'll if you do it right once, it's just gonna be a momentum builder. Like you've got to keep choosing it. This is seems like we're having some themes pop up here
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, definitely.
Ian C, love you, Ian.
Yeah.
In a different context to today's sermon, when I feel I have no control over God's reply to my prayers, I've learned to be persistent and tenacious. I love that. In a positive notion, how can we know when to press on in the areas that we feel are uncontrollable?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think in our archives we have some decent messages about prayer and the aspect of persistence, because there isn't it true, Matt? Like there's sometimes where you want to be that persistent widow as Jesus talked about in Scripture. At other times you want to demonstrate great trust, but I prayed with it and I left it with Jesus, right? How do you know the difference of when to do it?
Whew, $1 million question.
Yeah, listen, I'll say this. It's okay if you get it wrong. I think some people are praying a persistent prayer. God's already answered it. It's not the answer they want, and they keep praying it. It's going to take them some time, but at least they're going back to God.
Right.
And they're going to Him over and over. And here's the thing. God is incredibly patient with us.
Right.
He's patient with us. So if we get it wrong, it's okay, friends. You're still going to talk to God. Think about it in your family context. If your child's coming to you, there's different moments where you sit there and you applaud the persistence.
Yeah.
There are other moments where the persistence becomes annoying. And I think when it's all around our wants with our kids, it becomes a little annoying.
Wow, great illustration.
But we do applaud it when truly there's something going on. And they keep coming to us because someone's picking on them at school or something, and their heart is hurting.
Right.
And their life is hurting, and we applaud them coming to us. But if it's coming, I want another cookie, I want another cookie, I want another cookie. Just go to your room, right?
Yeah.
I think, the persistent widow was doing this on behalf of her son.
Right.
And boy, Jesus understood the mother's heart.
Yeah.
And is talking about that. It was actually for somebody else. Right. And it wasn't just like, give me more money.
Right.
And I think I've used that as a bit of a guideline in my life, Ian. And there are times where I feel just I can't let it go, so I just keep coming to Him. Other times where I feel like, no, I've given it up to Him. I trust Him with it. Hope that helps.
Totally, that is so good. And I do think that anytime we have a question like this, it pushes me towards something that's been kind of a journey I've really been trying to be on lately, and that's just trying to listen to God better. Because I think sometimes when we're not sure, it's a great chance for us to just be listening too, not just talking.
So, that's the maturation process, Matt. Like, you're an adult now, and when you talk to your parents, it's no longer just you doing the talking. As you grow and mature, you do the listening.
Yeah.
When we're younger, our parents are maybe commanding, but we're the ones demanding attention, and it becomes this beautiful cadence of communication, and that's how we grow in our prayer language. And listen, if you're maybe your prayers are more about you talking, create a little space. Just try it this week. Just to take a step back, and maybe you do your little introductions like, God, I'm here, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, totally.
But what would it look like to just pause and say, God, I just want to take a moment and listen.
Sure.
And just create an awkward silence moment.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the way God speaks will be through His Word. Sometimes the way He speaks, it's just thoughts that are starting to come to your mind that shape a direction or something like that. So just create a space to listen. It can be very healthy and helpful.
Yeah. Oh, man. We could talk about that for a long time. I think it's just my own personal journey is there right now. So I'm a little focused on it. But let's keep rolling. Sarah A., How do you navigate the arena of boundaries, control, and running on an empty tank? So specifically towards boundaries.
Scripture is very clear too. People without boundaries, um, uh, they're not only dangerous to themselves, they're dangerous to others. And we don't talk enough about it. I think probably we have moments, we've talked a lot about boundaries with people and relationships and understanding how people are wired and to know when to have a boundary around it. Jesus had boundaries. Jesus had his 3, he had his 12, he had his 72. He had groupings of people and boundaries and different levels of engagement there. But boundaries are really key to also keeping your tank full. Without them, it's like years ago when I first joined the staff, I was in my 20s, and Pastor Keith was doing a little teaching with all the pastors, and he made a statement, I've never forgotten it, that a pastor who's available all the time isn't worth much when he is.
That's gold.
And that was life-shaping for me. If every time you call, you can just get me, meet me or something, I'm not going to be worth much when we do get a chance to engage. Because we need proper boundaries to refuel, to protect our souls for many different reasons. And this is why I can't be there for everyone, but we have this incredible team of elders in our church. I shout out to the elders.
Yo.
Our care team, shout out to our care team. Welcome, Pastor Stephen. So glad you're with us, and Andrea. But we also have this great staff and pastoral team. I'm so thankful that I don't do it alone. We share the load together. And community groups is a great way to be there one for the other, too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. Okay, this wasn't a question, but might be worth just teasing this out a little bit. This is obviously, so many people are facing some really sensitive personal issues where they're facing that it deals with this, right? So let me just read this. When you live with someone who is emotionally abusive day in and day out, it's hard to believe that God is in control. You feel like you can't leave. You know that the other person needs help, and you continue to ask God to help them, but it's not easy to live with it. So it's obviously that's something where you want. I know what I want for that person right now is for them to get some help and to have a conversation with someone who can walk them through that. But any comment that might help someone who's going in that?
Yeah, if you're in that situation, I'm not sure who you are, but I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And I know that many people find themselves in these moments, and I'll echo what you just said, Pastor Matt. Like, you can't do it alone. That's too depleting, too toxifying, too dangerous.
Yeah.
You need to talk to someone. Our care team is here for you. We want to support you in this moment. But I will say this because it harkens back to the previous comment. Boundaries.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in a toxic relationship, you need to set these type of boundaries. And the Bible talks about it. You know, the wise, the evil, the foolish person. If this, then that. If you're going to talk to me in this way, moving forward, just know that this will be how the result. And you give a consequence too. Now, if somebody's really ill and they need help, the only catalyst for them to find help often is a boundary you've set. They're not going to, if they have not found help by themselves, they're likely not going to. It's going to cause, they need a catalyst.
Right.
And a catalyst is usually a consequence. And I'd say this, doing this by yourself is difficult.
Yes.
Finding proper help and counselors or someone to support you in that moment is really important to be able to build those proper boundaries that are not retaliatory, but they are meant to be redemptive in nature.
Yes. Yeah.
But those things don't usually get better by themselves.
Right.
There needs to be an intervention moment. And
Right.
so, reach out to our team. You can always email us at info@onechurch.to, and one of our pastoral team will connect with you, and we'll do our best to support you in this moment.
Absolutely. When you're in the middle of any moment, that especially one that's been extended period of time, it's going to be really tough for you to have the motivation, let alone the perspective to make really healthy choices.
That's
that.
really
You
good,
need
Matt.
someone there with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Opal says, I feel that sometimes God pushed me and pulled me back during certain circumstances that I was engaging in a situation as it was unfolding. Is it possible that God was training me to find the right balance in my decision making instead of asking Him to make it for me?
Yeah, not knowing the situation, it's hard to answer that. Was
Yeah.
it Paul that you said, or
Opal.
Popo?
Opal.
Opal. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I grew up. I knew an Opal. If it's a woman, she was a Opal Fitzherbert was her name.
Oh, that's a great last
Isn't that a great name?
Fitzherbert, man, that's a character from like Anne of Green Gables or
Yeah.
something.
She was the mother of my sister's best friend, Angela. So
There you go.
there you go. Well, Opal, I mean that's not knowing the situation is very difficult to answer that question. In a way that may be meaningful. But of course, there are moments where God is training us by not answering, by directing, to make better decisions. I'm not sure what the question is engaged in that, because the situation, the context would be so helpful in understanding and responding. Matt, do you have anything?
Sorry, I'm reading the next question at the
Oh,
same time.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Jonathan.
No problem,
Didn't mean to
man.
leave you hanging out there.
No problem.
I'm not even sure what you were asking. I was totally.
Well, Opal, if you can jump in the chat room and give us a little bit more context, I
There
think
you
I'd be better able to answer that
Sorry,
question.
no,
Yeah.
I don't have more context.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, I lost my attention for 1 second trying to understand it.
I've hosted and I've done the exact same thing, so no worries.
Sorry, yeah, no, I do not have more context. I
Okay.
think it. My only thought would be for Opal that, very similar to some of the other answers we've been giving is, you take responsibility as much as you can for that your own actions, handle things right, and then even just be listening. God, what are you trying to teach me in this situation? If you feel like you're in a washing machine and you're just doing the same cycle over and over again, there's probably something that you need to learn before you can get out of that washing machine. And then, like we've been talking about, community is such a great way. You can process this if you have someone really healthy in your life and go to them. And maybe if you have someone safe, you can have this is the specifics of the situation that might help you with that discernment. But
That's
sorry.
No, that's good.
PTL, this is our last question. This is a fantastic Q&A time. This has been awesome.
Fantastic questions. The quality has been excellent.
So PTL, thank you for this. How can we let go of past wounds or bondage which are controlling us, even though we tried hard to let go, including forgiving others and surrendering our wounds to God?
PTL, excellent question, because everybody needs to answer that question. If you tried and you've given it to God and you've done it and been unable to do it, then you need somebody to help you. We get moments, I've mentioned many times, because I want to normalize this, so that we understand it's okay to go see a counselor. You get moments where what we're doing is not enough, or the way we're seeing it or approaching it is not enough. The wound is so deep, runs so deep. It's not a matter of even just following some of the steps that maybe I've talked about in forgiveness. We need to really unpack not just what the person did, but why. Why did it get so deep into us? What's in me? And I want to encourage you, PTL, that there are moments when we seek help, especially past bondages. We can be in addictive cycles, and we try to fight those addictions by ourselves. And like if you're ever trying to rid yourself of an addiction or a really bad habit, you keep trying harder and you white knuckle it. And in the end, you find yourself again back in that same place, and it's incredibly depleting and discouraging. Well, in those moments, you don't have the tools in yourself to do this. And all of us can find ourselves in this place. That doesn't mean you're not smart. Right. You could be a very smart person. Doesn't mean that you're not don't love Jesus. You could love Jesus deeply. But addictions have it connects to our brokenness.
Right. And
it feeds something in us. And it's not a matter of trying harder. Something needs to change.
Yeah.
And so A lot of us need, when you go to a construction site, there's scaffolding on the outside and support beams and others. And as you get healthier, some of the scaffolding can come down and some of the support beams can go away. And then you might be entering into a phase where you need the scaffolding and the support beams now to get out of that. And eventually you can be free of it.
Right.
But you may need those moments. And this is why even when people are facing anxiety, and I always say see your doctor when it's pervasive anxiety, because sometimes medication just is a little bit of that support beam and scaffolding. Sometimes you might be on it for a long time, sometimes not. But there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever's going to help you to be the healthiest version of you, to be able to connect with God and connect with other people in a way that is congruent with what God says.
Yeah, that's so good. I think the part of the maturing process, for me at least, has been starting to understand what my tells are.
Right.
And when I am leaning towards something, medicating a feeling a certain way, I've learned, and I'm not always good at this, but I've learned that the right way to handle it when I can do it is to ask the question, what's underneath that? What is actually the real issue? If I'm wanting to just veg on the couch and watch Netflix and just ignore stuff, what am I actually medicating? What's the actual pain point that's under there? And that's the real hard work.
But Matt, I love that, and I wish more of us did this. We ask questions, and it's being curious about why we do what we do. Nothing wrong with having a veg night watching Netflix.
Yeah.
It's when it's beginning to be a habit that takes us away from good things, takes away from our kids or building into our relationships and everything else. That's when it becomes a little more difficult. It's like I've said many times over the years, when I read something in God's Word I don't like or it bothers me, I literally have developed the habit to push myself back from it. And what I'm trying to do is gain vantage point. And I ask myself the question, why does this bother you, Jonathan?
Exactly. Oh, man, so much fruit in that question.
Because there's something, it's revealing something in me. Mm-hmm. And either I'm reading it wrong, and I'm reading it from a narrative that maybe it should bother me the way I'm reading it.
Right.
So I need to learn a bit more, or there's something in me. There's something in me that needs to be challenged.
Right. And then that leads us back to the opportunity to surrender and be obedient in that area, and that leads it's the opposite of the washing machine in the negative direction, right?
Yeah.
Well, this has been so good. Thank you, Pastor Jonathan, for spending the time with us and for prepping such a great teaching for us this weekend.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you for investing in our community that way.
Love you guys.